Sorry about that. I really didn't think that this was going to be a two-parter, but my phone was running out of storage. What's happening is that I'm out here in the country and I don't have good cell coverage, and I obviously don't pay for cable or anything like that, or even Netflix or something like that. So whenever I watch videos, I have one of those little things that plugs into the bottom of your phone and plugs into the TV, and so the image on your phone gets onto the TV, and that's how I watch videos. And I either download the videos whenever I got Wi-Fi, or right now I've got a mobile unlimited plan for as long as I can afford to keep paying for it with my savings, but. Um, I'll download these videos one thing at a time because you can't just watch videos on data out here. Um, you just don't have a strong enough signal. It's going to be stutters. It's going to be loading. It's going to be buffering all of the time. But so I got a lot of videos on here. But anyways, so I'll try to hurry up as much as possible and give you the update. But yeah, the seeking disability is a very emotional process. Whenever I first got out of the active duty, going down there, I just turned right back around because I saw people in worse off positions than me. But eventually, like I said, the director of Restrepo, he had a bunch of TED Talks. He had 2 TED Talks about this topic. He gathered up the data that non-combat veterans are 80% of all of the mental illnesses and stuff like that, that whenever you are in a type of Restrepo type situation, which while he was filming, it was absorbing, the Korengal Valley where it was filmed was absorbing, I think, 80% of all the combat and all the engagements and firefighting and everything like that, the firefights in the area. So it was engaging the enemy essentially more than any other place by far. But people who left the military straight after that documentary was filmed, Korengal and Restrepo, they're both uh, the same time period and the same place and everything are covered. But the people who left the military right after that were inconsolable. They were like 100% disabled 100% of the time. But if they went on to a next duty station, maybe they'd be 80% if they left the military afterwards, the active duty military after that. And if they left after 2 duty stations, it'd be like 60%. 3, it'd be like 40%. 4, it'd be like 20%, and 5, they'd be fine. These sorts of things. That the military isn't the problem. The military heals its own. The military isn't the problem. Even the extreme situations that people get into isn't the problem. It's dealing with the civilian world, because there's so much isolation and everything. If you get into a sociology class, you can start to really get into it. I think during the 1950s, during like the right before the World Wars, people kind of lived in communities. Nobody bought an entire box of tools. There would just be like one guy with all the tools, and you'd borrow tools from your neighbor. And you could go over and get seen by the town doctor essentially, and trade. Instead of $6,000 for a broken arm, you could trade like a pan full of your famous blueberry muffins or something like that. So there was a lot of power in economy. There was a lot of power in not everybody has to get a car, that you can still carpool. There's a lot of power in community that all got broken apart by a sort of capitalistic system that started to break people apart in order to make more money. Um, it's a lot more profitable if everybody has tools. It's a lot more profitable if nobody borrows anything from the neighbor. It's a lot more profitable if you're buying the drugs from the drug companies, and you're being charged all of this money straight from your doctor, and you're not getting any kickbacks or anything like that. But it also costs more all the way around for everybody else. It's just sucking more money out of the pockets of poor people. Really, really old story. But And there's a very communal environment inside the military, and there's a very isolationist environment throughout the rest of the Western world, by and large, and it's spreading throughout other countries as well because it's so profitable for business owners and the like. But um, they they get caught up in the game, and the game is more higher number, and that's the game of business and capitalism. And a lot of very very successful business and capitalists around the world, they really they think it is a game, and so they don't care about the human toll that comes on top of that. You know, how many people they hurt, how many people get killed, how many people do anything like that. They don't care about any of that because it's just it's all profit. It's all points on a board. You know, they think of it as a game and they don't want to stop playing, and so they really don't care about the impact. Corporate psychopaths, corporate sociopaths, stuff like that. That's a whole another side of the story. But so basically, that isolationist worldview, it really tears us apart. It causes a lot of the mental illnesses and stuff like that. And this is a really bad time for anybody with a mental illness as well because of the isolationist policies contained within quarantine. But that's all sort of besides the point. That was the topic of his second TED Talk, and whenever you're armed with those types of statistics, then you can move forward with that and say, hey, I'm a non-combat veteran, I have all my fingers and toes, but I'm mentally ill. And that's, it's not as time consuming to have a doctor figure out what's wrong with you and give you medication, and it's also not a big deal. Doctors are there to be doctors, but it's that personal journey that you go through where you say, you go in and you've got all your fingers and toes and somebody else is getting wheeled out and they have one arm and one leg, it just makes you want to turn back around and get in your car, and that's exactly what I did. I got out of active duty, and the next day that my contract ended, I joined the active drilling reserves in the United States Navy. So I thought I was ready for action. I thought that there was nothing wrong with me whatsoever. And that's where a lot of this comes from. There's still a lot of bravado. There's still a lot of pressure on men, especially. You can't show emotions. You can't show any of these things, even though that's a human thing to do. And so you can't be human. You're not allowed. So again, take a couple of sociology classes. It'll start to break down, and with science as well. It'll show you the statistics. It'll show you the mental health side and stuff like that. It'll show you the medical community's opinion on these things, and start to show you what happens to people and whatnot. But you take a couple of sociology classes, then they'll start to bring you up to date on the effects that this has on people. But that's the kind of problem. That's why I didn't get diagnosed with any of these things until I was in an inpatient program for a week. That's why it took them an entire week to figure out all these things that are wrong with me. I got seen by doctors before entering Navy active duty, several times before entering Navy active duty, several times at each and every duty station. And I was still not diagnosed with any of these disorders, nor given any medication whatsoever, even during my childhood and everything else. Whenever all the warnings and risk factors were there, one, the science wasn't all there. We didn't know all the different science that we know now. And so you can say this kid's being abused, but I don't know what to do about it. Are they being abused enough for medication? The science isn't all the way there. But I never got diagnosed with any of this stuff through any of the duty stations or anything like that, all because I was holding it together so well. I remember Dave Asprey has his own little story about this, and I think he also told his story in one of his TED Talks. But he tells the story quite often a lot of different talks that he's invited to all over the world. Dave Asprey's the guy who made Bulletproof Coffee, by the way, and the Bulletproof Diet and everything like that. But he tells a story about how whenever he first went and got a SPECT scan, because he was so overwhelmed at school, and because he didn't know how to do any more work, he was so tired and everything. And whenever the SPECT scan came back, there was very, very little activity in his brain, even though he was obviously working as hard as he possibly could. Staying up and, getting 2 hours of sleep at night and stuff like that. And they said, you look and talk so normal that you have the best camouflage that I've ever seen. And that's what was wrong with me, is that I was holding it together so well that even if somebody could say, there's something that's not right about this guy, nobody could say what, including the medical professionals. So I was just holding it together so well and operating so well. I mean, anybody that's got depression, anybody that's got anxiety, anybody that's got any mental illness problem, if they don't have disability, they got to work too. If they don't have somebody taking care of them, they got to work too. They got bills to pay. All of the above. It doesn't matter what's wrong with you. If you got a broken leg, if you got no leg, you got to work too, unless somebody's taking care of you, whether that's disability or some sort of caregiver. So everybody, you can walk down the street and pass 15 psychopaths with antisocial personality disorder. You can pass 15 sociopaths. You can pass 1 million people with depression. You can go on the Center for Disease Control's website and look all of these figures up. But everybody's got some kind of disguise. Everybody's got some kind of face that they wear to brave the world. But you never know what somebody has going on beneath the surface. So, anyways, it was a very emotional journey just to start going to the VA regularly for checkups on this, that, and the other, but they still didn't diagnose me or get the medications for all the different illnesses that I suffered until after that week-long inpatient program. And it had to be that many doctors, dedicated to an entire wing of hospital to watch me 24/7 for an entire week to see through the disguise and say, this is what's wrong with this guy. I know there's something wrong with this guy. He's here, but this is what's wrong with this guy. And nobody else detected it. They said, okay, there's something wrong with this guy, but I can't put my finger on it. And so next patient, that sort of thing. But, so it was a very difficult process just to get started on all that. And somebody had preliminarily diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder. It was just like the first thing that popped onto their mind regarding everything that I've been through growing up and everything. And I don't know if it was a psychology student or a resident or who it was, but it was at the John Cochran VA Medical Center in St. Louis, Missouri, who said that. And so I started to pursue it because I knew that there was disability attached. And there's a lot of people in my family that are not very wealthy. We're all not very wealthy. And so just like the transition assistance program person running the program at Tinker Air Force Base in 2011, even if I didn't use that disability money, I could give it away. It's my money. It's a disability that I got from doing what I was told to do for my job. It's workman's compensation, So it doesn't matter what you think about somebody who's, pursuing disability. If they get the disability, then they earned it. Whether they were able to successfully fool their doctors into thinking that they got a disability or not, they earned it. I was watching an interview with a beggar once, somebody who was a professional beggar. He had like a home and a car and everything. And I was watching an interview with him, and he said one of the things that you sacrifice for this, quote unquote job, for earning money this way, is a lot of pride. And so you pay the price one way or another. So if somebody goes after disability and gets it, then they earned it. It's not your decision to make. Judge them how you want. Don't judge a book by the cover. There's probably something going on in their own life, but whatever you think about it, they earned it. And there's also that stigma against anybody going after disability, seeking disability, or something like that. But really, I just wanted to be healthy. I wanted to know that there was nothing wrong with me. Like I said, I first started going to the VA finally in 2012, and I was still in the active drilling reserves. Whenever I sit down with a psychologist or somebody at John Cochran VA Medical Center, and they say, I think you have post-traumatic stress disorder, I want to get it fixed. If you got a broken arm, you don't want to go into combat and get deployed on the other side of the planet and with somebody relying on you with one broken arm, that you've just been hiding this entire time. And it's not good for anybody. It's not good for anybody whenever you hide that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, well, let me get the test. Let me prove it and everything. Let me get the disability if it's there. But let me get fixed. Let me get cured as much as possible. Let me get treatment. And it eventually turned out that it just wasn't true. It was a preliminary diagnosis, but she had not put the finger on the right mark. And it's not really her fault. She was only with me for less than an hour, I think. And she gave me that preliminary diagnosis. But at the end of the day, it took so many doctors and medical personnel in Jefferson Barracks VA Medical Center to stare at me for an entire week, 24 hours a day, in order to figure out precisely what was wrong with me. And they had to review all of my medical records from everybody ever, basically, and put that all together as a committee to figure out what was wrong with me and get me the proper treatment. And I'm taking the proper treatment. It's obvious that I'm taking the proper treatment. I'm quote-unquote a homeless veteran or whatever in this camper, and I'm obviously not that worried about a lot of different things. I just went through a divorce. I should be beside myself right now. But that is the way that it is. Anyhow, so seeking disability is its own emotional process, especially after all of the rebuffs and the process of the getting that preliminary diagnosis with post-traumatic stress disorder, and eventually told that the preliminary diagnosis was wrong. So it's an emotional journey all on its own, but somebody told me that I should really start to seek that out. I've given all of my case, I gave my case to somebody at the VA that specializes in all that. They have a special name and I can't remember what it is, but they failed to find any disability or anything within all my case files that was compensatable. Then I gave my case to a law firm that does all of that, and they take a portion of your disability if they are successful with their case. And I gave that to them in probably early 2013 or something along those lines, and nothing ever came out of that. And they just sent me something that said that I should give them the case again. They have to renew it every couple of years, and I'm not going to do it. And there's another organization that does pretty much the same thing. It's headed up by, I think it's a guy named Brian Reese, and so I'm going to have to give it to him because he's got a lot of good things to say, and he's a 100% disabled veteran himself. But even initiating that process with all the disappointment that I've been through, and with all the different, it's its own emotional process, and it's a tough process to subject yourself to as well, especially with all the different people that are going to attack you simply because you're ill, or simply because you're disabled in some way, shape, or form. I've got major depressive disorder. I can prove it. I got, I've had, I've got my prescribed medications for it. I've got generalized anxiety disorder, and I can prove it. And I've got the medications I was prescribed for it. I've got high blood pressure. I can prove it. I've got the medications I was prescribed for it. I've got adult attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and I've got the medications that I was given, and I can prove it. And it's these sorts of things. I'm mentally disabled. It's just how mentally disabled. Is it a little tougher to be me than it is for another person to be themselves? Or is it something where it's actually going to affect whether or not I can get a job? And of course, yeah, it's tougher to be me. At the very least, I got to remember to take my medications. But besides that, that's not that big of a sacrifice. So really just trying to figure out, how disabled are you? So that's something that I've been told that I should really get into, but I'm not really going to be able to pursue it until sometime tomorrow after I wake up, because it's going to be Monday again. And hopefully somebody is working within their law offices at Brian, sorry, it's getting late. You yawn because of a lack of oxygen. It's not actually because you're tired, but anyways. But I'm going to have to give them all of my information, and I've been at a process where I've been trying to get all my information together. So there's so many different pieces of the puzzle. So the updates, I'm going to have to fill out their form for the San Diego attorneys that do everything for free. So I'm going to have to fill out their form. I haven't done that yet, but I figured I might as well, at some point in time before maybe Monday. I'm supposed to get a call from the VA homelessness hotline or whatever that is, probably sometime tomorrow. My psychiatrist wants to talk to me again in a month. Normally he talks to me like once a semester, but now that I'm in a bad situation, he wants to talk to me in a month. I have to give all my information to this Brian Reese guy, and start the process of seeing whether or not I'm eligible for any type of disability. But at the same time, a lot of stuff in my chemistry class has been pushed back a little bit, and I might have a little bit more time to work on these things and try to understand these things. So that's really good news. And the other class that I have is my Science of Happiness Sociology class. So, then I can really buckle down and figure out what's going on there so that I don't fail that class, because it's been very odd. They've been halfway using a program that the college is known for using for online classes, and the other half of it has been like hidden within a sea of emails, and I've only gotten like one alert from the program itself. So it's very, very, I have no idea what's going on in the class, essentially, at this point. So I'm have a little time to hopefully catch up with all of that. Call a few people and stuff like that. And hopefully before the end of the semester really get these things going. Of course, in the fall, becoming a graduate level student at my alma mater, SIUE, so I can start borrowing graduate level student loans. That's going to be a thing. If I can do it this summer, then that would be fine. But in the summer, the student loans get a little weird in the summer. Usually you can't get federal student loans in the summer. I don't know if that changes for graduates, but it looks like it's really not going to be something that I'm going to be able to get into until at least the fall. So that's the next couple of steps and everything. I found a razor. It hurt a lot to use, but I found a razor, so that's good. That was good for the day. I still don't have my economic stimulus package because I can't log onto the IRS website. It wants an old student. It wants a student loan account number, but it doesn't accept my student loan account number. It wants an auto loan number, but it doesn't accept my old auto loan number. It wants a credit card number, but it's not accepting my current credit card number. So I'm going to have to go find an old wallet with old credit cards and hope that I haven't cut them up with scissors and thrown them away or something. The IRS currently isn't accepting phone calls, so there's nothing that I can do to speed up the process any. So I just have to continue to dig through the garage and try to find an old wallet or something like that. Go from one page to the next and the next. The government phone people, the ones that give you a free phone from the government, they want me to prove that I just got a divorce. So I have to find my final divorce papers, and it was one of the last things that I got before I left the old apartment. So I got to find those as well. So in the meantime, while I'm looking for these things, I kind of accidentally categorized a lot of the and organized a lot of the garage. I've been fixing it up a little bit, or at least cleaning it up, not really fixing it up. I got a chainsaw from Harbor Freight. I cut through some of the trees and foliage in the way. Some of the flat ground around here is in the backyard where the trailer is, and so that's where I chose to build. I got 640 square foot of pallet from a family friend. I'm very grateful. And so I can start to really mess with that. I can start to cut down trees and see if I can't start on a vertical log cabin and stuff like that. Of course, very first priority is going to be the schoolwork. So once I do the schoolwork, then I can do all the other stuff. But until the schoolwork is done, it's caught up with, I understand what's going on in the class, I really can't think about much of anything else. I can't think about the future or anything like that. SIUE wants the transcripts from all of the other schools that I've ever been through in my entire life. All forms of academia, all forms of tertiary education that I've ever been through in my life before they'll let me into the graduate level program. That's quite a tall order. I don't even know if everybody from all these different places are picking up the phone to order a transcript from these different college campuses, but that's what I'm going to have to do. But get caught up on schoolwork first, try to do well in school first, then move on to other things. For now, I have enough food to live and exist. The leaks started up again yesterday, and I had to buy a gigantic tarp from Walmart and put it over the entire camper because it was a water park in here. But besides that, those are the future steps and everything. So, sorry this went on so long and whatnot. I really thought I was going to be able to wrap it up pretty quickly. And like I said, it took me 15 minutes just to catch people up who aren't caught up on the whole situation. But those are the next steps. Hopefully, I can really start to shorten these things down a bit and just go, maybe not a daily vlog, but at least catch people up on a moment-to-moment basis. It's really all part of my therapy and everything for the year 2018 was reading into a lot of Dr. Brad Blanton's books and Radical Honesty, and that's something that the entire medical community really agrees on, is that the truth is important and it's healing and everything. That it's the thing that everybody can agree on. The legal system, the justice system, the truth is important. And so demystifying at least one person's life and telling everybody the God's honest truth, instead of putting up this big front where you only tell people the good things on social media and stuff like that, and hiding your true self from somebody, it really doesn't help anybody. It might get you accepted into a group of friends or something like that, but you're sacrificing the long term for the short term. And so, being a human being, showing emotions and stuff like that, telling people exactly what you're going through and how you're struggling through it and everything, that's its own very, very important thing that can demystify you as a human being, have other people relate, and then you can actually start to get genuine solutions for the problem anymore, instead of having people say, you're fat, so, eat less calories. That's it's a ton of different stuff that you can read on about that. It's not just Adam ruins everything. It's good calories, bad calories, and stuff like that from all these different medical professionals around the world. But even the VA Move program doesn't really agree with that sentiment. But that's all besides the point. But the demystifying one human being very honest, telling people exactly what's going on, and not putting up this front for social media, not telling people that that things are worse than they are. I got an iPad Pro that obviously if I sold that would probably fetch some money. I'd be able to eat. I'm not going to starve to death in this camper, and it is a camper at the end of the day. It's not a tent by the overpass. So not making things out worse than they are, not putting up front like everything is great and you should wish to be me or something like that, like many people do on social media. It's really sacrificing the long term for the short term. So telling the truth is its own very, very important thing to do. And that was something that was really part of my therapy as well, is realizing that and going through that whole process and whatnot. But that's all besides the point. Again, sorry that this took so long. I won't be catching every single person up every time that I do a video, because it did take me 15 minutes to do that. And again, sorry again for the length, and I'll let you go. Sorry that this was a two-parter. My phone's filling up with videos about this, that, and the other to watch, mainly building stuff. Just really trying to figure out how to build stuff. Anyways, thanks. Bye.